What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImmacSports.
Instagram is also at Max Sports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 253, and we have hit the midway point in the baseball season. All-Star break. All-Star game later tonight. Home Run Derby was last night. That was pretty cool. And we got a couple things to wrap up for the midseason point. Also, dude, MLB Draft was awesome. We'll get more into that, too. Just love watching guys you don't know and be like, what is this guy going to look like in 5 years?
Yeah, it's a fun draft. A lot of unknowns, a lot of high prep picks that feels like a bit more than usual, especially within the first 15 picks. We will grade, actually, the first 15 picks of the draft. Maybe talk about some of our favorite or least favorite picks outside of that as well, too. But before we get into that, or I guess kind of segueing into it a little bit with my opener, it's going to be the guy who the A's took at number 11. I'm not going to grade the pick yet, but taking Jamie Arnold. What a steal to get at number 11. Feels so good knowing, as an A's fan, that we now have 3 top 100 prospect pitchers in Luis Morales, Gage Jump, and now Jamie Arnold as well, too. It's just things that you knew we needed, and you don't often draft based off of need. And then we'll be drafting, talked about this numerous times on the podcast and just in between you and me for years. But this felt like a good need pick. Also felt like a good best available pick as well, too, for the A's. And I'm extremely happy to say that Jamie Arnold is an A.
Absolutely. I'll also wait until later in the show to talk about that pick. But, obviously watching the draft and watching Brent Rooker crank one 470 feet last night, apparently wasn't completely 471, but we don't need to talk about that. How about the 2 Jet superstars getting extended back to back? That's awesome. I know, despite all the crap people will send to me throughout the week about how they're both overrated. Honestly, dude, I mean, for about $25 million a piece, looking back at this in a couple of years, I'm not upset, man. I mean, just imagine Sauce Gardner's making $25 million a year for 4 years. Imagine what Travis Hunter's going to make in 4 years from now, when Sauce still has 2 more years on that deal. Either way, we haven't extended a guy like this since Quentin Williams a couple years ago. Before that was Muhammad Wilkerson. So just to know that we're on the same page, the Jets are always that team that's got the ugly story headed into camp. They got it done. It's over with. We got our squad.
Yeah. And to hit on something a little bit that you said, if I had to least everything I saw this past week, it would be Brent Rooker losing out on getting to the second round of the Derby by a tenth of a foot. Because I'm sure StatCast is that deep, and they didn't just do it for PR, knowing that Cal Raleigh is the bigger star, and they want him to go to the next round.
Of course not.
But I digress. And we're moving into our player, pitcher, and rookie of the week, as we have always done. The MLB season's going on. Starting off with the player of the week, Skyler, who do you choose here?
I'm going to go with Mike Trout this week. The Angels haven't won a ton of games, but when Mike Trout is on, they're immediately more exciting to watch. And this was one of his better weeks of the season. 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 6 more walks, and a 1,400 OPS. So great work for Mike Trout. Let's see if he can finish the season strong.
I'm going to go with Byron Buxton for my player of the week. He went 9 for 13, had a cycle, another double as well, too. 3 RBIs, a stolen base. Hit over 650. A guy that competed in the Derby. Always like to see him do well and stay healthy and be on the field. And it seems like Byron Buxton this year has had some of his best ability in his career to do that. So enjoy watching Byron Buxton play, and good luck to him on having a healthy second half. On to pitcher of the week.
This was a really close one until Saturday night when Garrett Crochet threw a complete game shutout against Tampa Bay. 9 strikeouts, exactly 100 pitches, so no Maddox, but he didn't walk anyone, so maybe he'll protest that. Anyways, it's still cool to see Garrett Crochet's first career complete game. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, Garrett Crochet is also going to be my pitcher of the week for the red-hot Boston Red Sox right now. A complete game shutout, like you said, only 3 hits, no walks, the big one. 9 Ks. For the potential Cy Young in the American League. Him and Scooble are going to have a great race as we get into the second half here. And then the rookie of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Noah Cameron of Kansas City. He's been quietly one of the best rookies in baseball, and on Sunday he helps Kansas City avoid the sweep against the Mets. 6 2/3 shutout, 8 strikeouts, Chase Burns was also great against Colorado. Nick Kurtz has been on this list many times, but I usually go strength of schedule for the tiebreaker. So I'll go with Noah Cameron's win over the Mets.
I'll go with the boring pick. I'm going to take Nick Kurtz again. He goes 6 for 18, a double, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks in his first career stolen bases. Well, 2. Just a fun player to watch. And as an A's fan, knowing he's on your team and has hit 17 homers in his first 60 games as a big leaguer is pretty fucking awesome. Let me just be frank about it. But he's a stud. Excited he's an A, and I'm excited Jamie Arnold's an A as well too. I haven't said it enough already.
Derbies in the future.
Oh yeah, I expect him to be there probably next year, and then maybe even after that. But we'll move into our top 15 power rankings that we do bi-weekly. Start off with the teams that weren't on our list last time, or any outside of the top 15 teams that you want to talk about.
Yeah, the Giants are going to get knocked off my list. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to 15. And for some reason, I just don't think Cleveland's done. So I'm not going to kill them yet.
Yeah, a couple Central teams I left off my list. But besides that, I'm good to go. We'll get into number 15.
All right. We'll start off with the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm going to drop them down a couple spots, but am I crazy for trusting them more than the Giants? San Francisco may have some more clutch wins, some bigger names, but the Cardinals have a top 10 lineup right now in the first half. The 15 spot isn't exactly the goal, but hey, it's another year where St. Louis doesn't have to sell at the deadline. They're just good enough.
My number 15 team is going to be the same team I had at number 15 last time we did this. That's the Cincinnati Reds. They go 6-6. Good week from Noelvi Marte, Spencer Steer, a couple other guys as well too, as they just do what the Reds have done this year and be slightly above mid. On to number 14.
Yeah, 14, I got the Reds. That's where I had them last time. Very exciting team now adds a couple more very exciting young players like Chase Burns, Noelvi Marte's back. And you can really feel the impact of Terry Francona. Some of those bad moves in free agency have been quickly replaced, and they have one of the better run differentials still.
Number 14, moving down one spot for me, is where I slot the San Francisco Giants. They do go 7-5 over the past 2 weeks, but are 10th or 28th in the league with 10 homers. Matt Chapman comes back from injury. Rafael Devers is still kind of cold, but Willy Adames does heat it up a little bit, posting a 994 OPS over the last 15 days. Now on to the San Diego, or I just leaked my team at number 13, but on to number 13.
Definitely debated San Diego here, but it's actually going to be Tampa Bay. I'm going to drop them down from 7, a really rough stretch, 2-8 in their last 10. And just another example of how it's impossible to win when you don't play any home games. The Rays very quickly turn right back into sellers at the deadline. Same spot as Cincinnati, basically.
Yeah. Number 13, like I hinted at, is going to be the Padres for me. They moved down 3 spots. They also go 7-5, so not a bad week, but I think they're hitting, especially with guys like Jackson Merrill and Luis Arias, not really doing much over the past couple weeks since Merrill specifically has returned from injury is the biggest thing for me here. The lineup just isn't as good as what I expected to be at the beginning part of the year. And that's why they're number 13 and not in the top 10 anymore for me. On to number 12.
At number 12, it is the San Diego Padres. Only dropped them down 2 spots, but something just seems a little off about the Padres. You know, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to play them at Petco. They just won a crazy series against Philly, but every single one of the veterans they brought in have been horrible. Hayward, Gurriel, Iglesias, Maldonado, much more than that too. All have a negative WAR this season. They're just not helping at all.
Number 12 is where I slot the Tampa Bay Rays. They moved down 3 spots after they got hot, and now they're cold. Go 3-9 over this stretch. They did make a slight move over this past week where they got Brian Baker from the Orioles, and they gave up a competitive balance pick, like pick 37 or something for the Orioles. They obviously made that selection already, but the offense has gone cold for them. And I mean, you kind of need to hit right in that stadium. We saw in the series that they played against the A's. The stadium is small. It's super susceptible to homers. When you're not hitting homers, it's pretty shitty. So Tampa Bay moves down 3 spots to number 12. Number 11.
At 11, I'm going to keep Seattle at the same spot. It's hard to ask for much more than the Mariners. Only 5 games back from Houston. and they're in a pretty good spot for the wild card. They just swept the Tigers in Detroit, so they could hypothetically do the same thing in October. Interesting team to watch out for.
Number 11 for me is also going to be the Seattle Mariners. They don't move at all. They go 7-5. They do have the best lineup in baseball over the past 2 weeks, a 140 team WRC plus and 26 homers. They're both leading the way in the MLB. Randy Arozarena had a crazy 2-week stretch. Jorge Polanco has heated up again. And even Cole Young has really started to get it going with his bat. Number 10.
At number 10, I got the Yankees dropping 4 spots. Pretty crazy, but when it comes to head-to-head matchups, they're just not as good as teams like the Cubs, the Mets, even Toronto beat them in a series. Luckily for them, they swept Seattle right after that Mets series, so they're not going to drop too far out of the conversation, but not the same Yankees team that went to the World Series, that's for sure.
Number 10, going from unranked all the way to the number 10 spot because you went 11-1. It's the Boston Red Sox. Their pitching has been the best in the league over the past 2 weeks, a 2.17 ERA, and they also have tied for the second highest WRC plus in the league at 135. Cedric Rafael has been playing like an MVP this past month. Trevor Story's been hot. Willie Abreu's been good. Jared Duran's been solid. Roman Gonzalez has had a crazy year. Roman Anthony's finally starting to get his back going. And oh yeah, they just got back Alex Bregman. So the Red Sox are hot, and they move into the top 10 with a crazy 2-week stretch. On number 9.
Yeah, I'm going with those Boston Red Sox at the 9 spot. I'm going to put them over the Yankees. I did it. 10 wins in a row, on fire. And it seems like they finally figured out which guys belong in the lineup in the post-Rafi era. It was a rough stretch there, but yeah, man, as of right now, they're definitely looking better than the Giants lineup.
Number 9 for me is where I slot the Yankees. They moved down 5 spots despite having one of the best offensive 2-week stretches in the MLB with 23 homers, which was second in the league, and also a 135 WRC plus tie with the Red Sox for second. But due to their 6.32 ERA, which is 29th in the MLB, they went 5-7 over this stretch. So if Judge is hitting, Bellinger's hitting, Stanton's hitting, Chisholm's hitting, and Austin Wells is hitting, it doesn't matter if you can't get outs. The Yankees are realizing that right now. On number 8.
At number 8, I got the Mets, moving them back up 1 spot from 9, starting to gain a little more trust in them. Another team that's heavily dictated by how their offense is doing, and it's been great this year. Pete Alonso's back at MVP conversation, so good for them. They just maybe need to go after a pitcher, and hey, they got the Yankees back.
Number 8 is the Mets for me as well, too. They remain in the 8 spots. They go 7-5 over this stretch. Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, and Juan Soto perhaps could be their big 4. Have all been playing well over the past couple of weeks. So when those guys are going good, you're probably going to play good ball. Number 7.
At number 7, I got a big riser, Toronto. The A's just saw them, watched a lot of Toronto this week. Man, up above the Yankees now. It's pretty crazy, but it's another team that has a lot of guys locked up on offense. The pitching staff a little older, but been handling business this week. Maybe they'll make a couple moves. We'll talk about their draft picks too. Looks like they're going a little younger, so maybe they are going to try to rebuild the core here. But what they got under contract, specifically a guy like Springer, right? When Springer's hot, they're going to be fine.
Number 7 is where I also slapped the Toronto Blue Jays. Sorry for being boring here, but I guess we're just right. They move up 5 spots for me. They go 9-3 over these past 2 weeks. 2 of those losses to the A's, which is kind of cool. 123 team WRC plus is 6th in the MLB during that span. And Addison Barger, who I hinted at last week when we did our top 10 must-see hitters, he was one of my honorable mentions of guys that I'm starting to really like watch hit. He's been on a tear. He goes 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 985 OPS for the last 15 days. He's hitting, and he's a stud to watch. So Toronto and their fun team at number 7. Number 6.
At number 6, I'm going with the Milwaukee Brewers +2, inching closer and closer to the Cubbies. Only 1 game back. They just swept the Dodgers, and they're going to play them again right after the break. So. Very good litmus test for Milwaukee, but hey, just like the team I have right above them, it seems like they're always in the conversation, even when they lose big names.
Number 6 is also going to be Milwaukee for me. They move up one spot for me. They go 9-3 over this stretch. 2.89 ERA is third. 9.59 K per nine is second in the MLB during that stretch, largely due to Jacob Mizorowski and his amazing start against the Los Angeles Dodgers this past week. But the biggest thing has been their offense. It's finally starting to go a little bit. Andrew Vaughn, his first 5 games as a Milwaukee Brewer, he has 10 RBIs and 2 homers. Who would have thought that? The most Milwaukee Brewers thing of all time, a guy with a 500 OPS with another team becomes a stud for them. That's just how the Milwaukee Brewers go. On to number 5.
Number 5 is going to be the Houston Astros. I'm dropping them down a couple spots because they've been a little wish-washy, but then they go and sweep the Dodgers. So I guess I can't bump them down that far. Keeping them in the top 5, all about the rotation with them. And so many injuries and guys moving. They've been able to replace them quickly. It's kind of amazing.
My number 5 team is going to be the Chicago Cubs. They move up one spot for me. They go 8-4 over this stretch, largely due to Michael Busch being absolutely ridiculous. In the offseason, I believe I had him as the number 5 first baseman I would want if I was building a franchise right now. And he's making my word look pretty good. I'll say that. So Michael Busch and the Chicago Cubs in the top 5 spot.
Yeah.
Number 4.
At 4 is where I got the Cubbies. I'm going to move them up one spot as well. Had a head start on you from 2 weeks ago. But yeah, plus 119 run differential. Not a lot of people can keep up with their lineup right now. And excited to see what they can do.
Number 4, one of the most consistent teams in the league right now, moving up one spot, is the Philadelphia Phillies. They do go 5-6 over this stretch, but they post the 4th best ERA in the MLB at 3.02. You know what you got from the Phillies, and it's a pennant-winning caliber team, year in, year out. On to number 3.
3 is where I got the Phillies, moving them up one spot. And this is your classic Phillies first half. Some ups and downs, some injuries that lead to breakouts rather than distraction. Yet they sit atop of the Mets still by half a game. And the Phillies are just a more consistent team. They're not even hitting their full stride right now. And I don't think this is their peak. I don't think you can say the same about the Cubs. And the Mets, I'm just not sure yet. But I think they're a better team as of today. So I'm going to rank them here. Number 3.
Number 3 is where I slot the Houston Astros. They don't move at all. They go 6-6 in this stretch, even without Jeremy Pena and the extended absence now for Yordan Alvarez. Regardless, they still post the 4th best WRC plus in the league and the tied for the 5th most homers in the league as well, 2 of 19. Largely in part to Victor Caratini having 4 homers and 13 RBIs in this stretch. On to the top 2, and I believe we're back to the same 2 teams that we were talking about last time we did this.
Yeah, it is the same 2 teams, except I'm going to flip it this time. I got the Dodgers, only the second time, right? And I didn't have to drop the Dodgers, right? They're right next to that number 1 team in the standings. But the Dodgers lost 7 in a row. The story of the season so far is that the Dodgers are not unstoppable. And that's why we should keep watching them, because they aren't perfect. It may be the best lineup in baseball, but this is baseball. And that's the whole thing. How could you not love it? Anything can happen every single night. Shohei getting a little more innings, that could be something that gets them eventually back up to the top spot without a doubt. But as of right now, they're beatable. So I moved them down.
Yeah, the top 4 teams this week all had a record either 500 or lower for me. So I think that's why I was kind of hesitant to move them. The Tigers are my number 2 team. They don't move at all. They go 6-6, post the 27th worst or 27th best ERA, so not good. 5.47 over this stretch, carried by their offense right now. But I think that is something as well that makes the Tigers so good, is that even when the pitching's bad, like, they find ways to win games and still go 500 while posting one of the worst ERAs in baseball over that time. And now on to number 1.
So yeah, I moved the Tigers up finally. First time this season. Yes, they got swept by Seattle. These teams didn't have great weeks, but I think the Tigers were the most dominant team of the first half. Nobody's going to catch them in the Central. That was a big factor for me. And like you mentioned, just guys stepping up, right? Everyone talks about the Dodgers pitching staff being injured. These guys don't have Jackson Jobe, one of the top prospects in baseball. Reese Olson has been missing time. I don't know what the deal is with him at the moment, but I know he's been out for a little bit. So those are 2 of their better starters, and they don't care.
Number 1, staying the same. is going to be the Dodgers for me. They go 5-7 over the stretch. I'm not too bummed out about it. They had a good first half ender against the San Francisco Giants, winning 2 out of 3 there. Shohei's cold right now. Mookie Betts is cold. Freddie Freeman's cold. And when those guys aren't hitting, obviously you're not going to play your best. I've got a lot of faith in them still. And I would imagine they had some guys at the deadline as well, too, because that's what they've done for the last, 15 years at the deadline. They remain a number one for me. Now on to a fun section that we get to do here at the MLB Draft happening this past week or the past couple of days. Obviously, we got the first round. It was pretty surprising in the first couple of picks before it kind of steadied out a little bit. But we're going to grade the top 15 picks and maybe talk about some of the other picks within the draft that we like or dislike, and so forth. But we'll get it started with the number 1 pick, the youngest player selected in the draft, Eli Willits, shortstop out of Oklahoma, born in December of 2007. What do you grade this pick for the Nats?
I'm going to give Washington an A- because when there's not a clear number 1 option, you take the underslot. That's just how this draft is done. And I personally wouldn't pass on Ethan Holiday, but if they have these 2 guys ranked right next to each other, it would make sense to go for the one who doesn't have Scott Boras as an agent. So I'm not going to kill him for passing on Ethan Holiday, especially for a team that's already hit the panic button a few times this season. Kate Anderson just made no sense at all to me. So I think that would have been more shocking than Eli Willits. And 17-year-old switch hitter, man, potential through the roof.
Yeah. Definitely think the good underslot opportunity for a front office that is new and kind of figuring things out after they just fired their GM a couple of weeks ago. Picking the youngest player in the draft also gives you a lot of time to mold him and kind of gives you some time to be incorrect before you become correct with this. And I think this pick, maybe won't be criticized as hard because he is so young. He's a switch hitter with a solid hit tool. The biggest thing I noticed was him trying to find a comp for him. I really couldn't. I said a bit of a worse Francisco Lindor. Guy maybe doesn't have the greatest speed, maybe a solid glove, but not as good as Lindor's. And then the hit tool isn't quite as good as Lindor's will ever be. Same thing with the power. But I think if you combine all this stuff together, you're looking probably at, 4 or 5 win player at his best would be my guess.
I like a big Tommy Edman.
That's fair. I like that. On to number 2 with Tyler Bremner going to the Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Angels a B grade for this one. Like Washington, it's hard to kill them for this pick when there's no Paul Skeens level player at the top here. And we've mentioned on here before that Kate Anderson isn't perfect. They didn't have to take him, right? Bremner is a top 10 player in this class. I don't care if he was ranked 18th or whatever. He didn't throw 3 million innings at LSU last year. There's a reason they took him, so I'm not going to kill the pick. They didn't like Kate Anderson. He's hurt. Or was hurt, excuse me.
Also realizing I never graded Eli Wild's pick. So I'm going with B on that one. For Bremner, I'll give it a B-. I'll say it's a sleeper pick for sure. Didn't expect that to be happening when I heard it. But with the pitching scouting being all over the place in this draft with Kid Anderson, Liam Doyle, Bremner, Jimmy Arnold, I don't think it's a terrible pick. It's not the guy I would take in this situation, but for the Angels' desire to rush guys to the big leagues, I think it fits their mold. Trying to find a comp for him as well, too, was kind of interesting. I settled on Zach Gallen with a slider instead of a curve and a more prevalent changeup. But I like Bremner. Obviously, watched him pitch in real life a couple times as well, too. He's a stud. And I think he'll have a successful career for the Angels. But B-. Now on to number 3, where the Seattle Mariners had Kate Anderson just fall right into their eye.
Yeah, you got to go with an A here for Seattle. This could end up being the best spot for him personally, even though it's not necessarily that need for the Mariners. An injury history and some advanced metrics that you pointed out to me probably help the Angels make their decision here. But Seattle has no need to rush Anderson to the big, so they should take their time. Maybe that's where the rift with the Angels came. But, he should be completely fine in Seattle.
For Kate Anderson to Seattle, I went with the B+. They're probably very happy he fell to them. Likely a 1-1 in many teams' eyes. He's about as sure as at least a 3-starter there is in this entire draft. I don't love, like we talked about prior, I don't love a lot of his pitch profiles, but I think Seattle has done a phenomenal job with Because like Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, like all these guys really maximize what they have. And Kid Anderson will probably do that. My comp for him it's an easy one. It's just Max Fried. Will he be as good as him? Probably not, but still like the pick. B plus. Now on to Colorado with Ethan Holiday falling to him.
Yeah, this is going to be an A plus for Colorado. It's a perfect spot. Ethan's just going to crush baseballs at Coors Field, just like his dad did many years ago. And some of my friends told me things like, who cares? The Rockies suck. They're just going to trade him. It doesn't even matter. Well, these days, if you got a young player with the potential to rack up some hardware like this kid does, then they get extended early. I wouldn't worry about it, at least in this decade. I just want to see him hit homers.
For this pick, I give it an A. Probably the highest position player ceiling in the draft. Having that sure of a hit tool at that young of an age is pretty rare. Obviously, he comes with the pedigree with his brother and his father as well too. That shows, he'll probably be able to make the adjustment. Likely heading to a record bonus for that slot as well too, with the agent and just the Rockies in general probably wanting to lock him down. And I'm curious how those negotiations go because obviously he's going to be a Rocky, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes for them. The comp, I'm a Corey Seager. I think it's an interesting one. He's not a burner on the base pass. He doesn't have the best defense. Could maybe go to third base. I think people wonder that with Corey Seager at times as well too with him at shortstop. But the hit tool is for sure. That's the biggest thing with him. You expect him to be a guy that hits 300 or around there and gets to 30 homers. And I think, especially playing in Colorado, we will see him put up those numbers in that stadium. So I go A. Next up, Liam Doyle, the lefty from Tennessee, goes to the St. Louis Cardinals at number 5.
Yeah, this was a difficult one for me to grade, but overall, I think it's a pretty good fit. So I'll go with an A minus. It wouldn't shock me one bit if Liam Doyle's a reliever, but sometimes being a little unorthodox and crazy is what turns a good pitcher into a great one. And at least St. Louis has some experience with this kind of prospect. If this was Colorado, who knows what my grade would be for taking Liam Doyle. But I think in St. Louis, they're going to be fine. I'll give him an A minus. It would suck if he isn't a starter, but that's the risk you take in this draft.
Liam Doyle is a guy I've talked about for months now at this point. I think my opener in February was talking about him. I thought he would shoot up the draft boards, but this is a lot higher than I ever expected he would go. I thought maybe it'd be a mid-first round thing, but number 5 is pretty damn high. He throws his fastball over 70% of the time, and I'm not really in love with any of his secondaries. And you can't really be an MLB starter if you're just throwing a fastball. And you don't really have a secondary pitch that can get guys outs because they'll hit the fastball if they know it's coming. What makes you good is being able to switch guys up and tunnel and be good with the other stuff. And I'm just not quite sure those other pitches are there yet. If they never develop, he's a surefire closer and a lockdown one as well too, which I think would be fun. I went B minus for the pick in general. I still love his fastball. Don't get me wrong, it's probably the best fastball in the draft class. But my comp for him was Robbie Ray with a bit of a better fastball, throws it harder. But I like that same type of violent lefty delivery with him.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's just trying to find a crochet. He's probably not quite there yet, though.
Yeah, but if there was a guy, it might be him. Number 6, Seth Hernandez, the pitcher from Corona High School in California, goes to the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, Seth Hernandez, the prospect is really intriguing, but Seth Hernandez 6th overall to the Pirates is just irritating to me. I'm going to give it a B minus. It's like they're punting on the Paul Skeens era, in my opinion. And we're not even 2 years in. And guess who they took in the second round? Another high school pitcher. I don't know, man. Seth Hernandez might be fantastic. But if it's the same situation where he's fantastic and he's all by himself, then who cares?
I graded this pick a bit different. This is my favorite pitcher in the draft. I'll say that. I think he's got the highest ceiling of any pitcher. I think he could be in the big leagues within 2 years, depending on how they want to limit his innings and stuff like that. I think the fastball is really good, and the secondaries are very crisp for a high schooler. It's not something that you see too often. With the Pirates pitching lab as well too, I have a ton of faith in them turning him into a stud. Because of my love for the prospect, I'm going to go A+ on this one. And I know it's interesting with the fit, and you'd probably prefer for them to take a hitter here instead. But with some of the guys available, maybe you could have made a better pick. But I like it. I think building the guys, and then if you need to trade, later, whether that means you have to trade Skeens or maybe you trade Hernandez in a couple of years to help the Skeens era, whatever it is, I don't mind it. My comp for him is rough because I think his build as a pitcher is interesting, super wiry. I said Jacob deGrom, but I really don't know if I love that. I like the fastball comp, but outside of that, I like the fastball and the delivery comp with deGrom, but outside of that, I don't. Obviously, the slider is like one of a kind for Jacob. So I don't know. I really like Hernandez, so that's 6.
You can look at it either way with a high school pitcher, right? The riskiest thing you can possibly do, or a franchise savior.
Yep. On to number 7, where the Marlins took Oregon State shortstop Javier Arquette.
Yeah, I'm giving Miami an A because Miami needs a captain badly after losing Jazz. And whether it's at shortstop, third, DH, Arquette should be up to the bigs pretty soon. Of course, as long as the hit tool is actually a 50 and not a projection of 50, then yeah, this should be a fantastic pick.
My favorite hitter in the draft. So my favorite pitcher and favorite hitter go back to back here. The power is legit. The hit tool is solid. The defense is good. He's a 6'5", 220 shortstop. I give it an A+. My comp for him, I actually really like this comp as getting more into it, is a right-handed Gunnar Henderson, where it's a lot of pop. The defense is solid. The run, like he's fast, but he's not really a guy that's going to steal like 30, 40 bases for you. Obviously, the size is interesting as well, too. There's not a ton of 6'5" shortstops. And Gunnar Henderson, I don't think is. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", but that type of player where there's a lot of pop from the middle of the infield is something that makes sense with him and Henderson alike. So A+ in my eyes. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays. You hinted at this earlier. They go young here, taking JoJo Parker, a shortstop from Purvis High School in Mississippi. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm going to give Toronto a B+. Based off of what I've heard about this kid, you can't complain about it. Toronto rebuilding the bats and the farm. This is a high school middle infielder with a lot of power. I've seen some Ryan McMahon, but I'm sure that's not the ceiling.
Interesting pick. It's always like weird for high school shortstops and us to like grade them because you really just don't know. You don't have a ton of information on them, at least in the public eye. But he seems super toolsy. Probably won't stick at shortstop in the long run is something that I saw quite a bit about with his defense. Maybe not the strongest arm. Solid bat with good pop. And my comp for him would be like a Jackson Holiday. I don't think it's Jackson Holiday's like prospect comp because obviously Jackson Holiday's prospect was like the number one. Like this guy is going to be amazing. I think like slightly better than the current day Jackson Holiday is what we might see from the peak of JoJo Parker. Next up, the Cincinnati Reds, or I went B+ for that, by the way. Next up, the Cincinnati Reds also went high school shortstop, Steele Hall from Alabama Hewitt-Trussville High School.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a C. I don't love Steele Hall. If you remember from last month, I left him off my mock draft entirely because he was kind of a late riser. I didn't really know how to rank him. And on the bright side, I think if they took someone like Merrick Houston, I would have just killed the pick, maybe given him an F, because why in the world are we taking another shortstop here, Cincinnati? But here's the thing. Here's why I think they took him. If they think that Steele Hall is going to end up as an 80 grade speed and fielder, if he goes to college, he may be a top 5 pick. So maybe they see it as a bargain, getting him for a couple million instead of 16 million in 3 years from now. So
yeah.
C grade.
Yeah. Biggest thing with Steele Hall, of course, is the speed. I think it's 70 grade speed right now. Obviously, that can get it higher as he gets older and probably even grows a little bit as well, too. He's only 17 years old. But he's not my type of prospect to be selected this high. I think you need to have a better sure of a hit tool to be selected this early, even if it is like that like gamble on him, and if he goes to college, 3 years later, he probably will have a better bat. But as of right now, we just don't know. My comp for him is an Xavier Edwards if he wasn't a switch hitter, which is kind of a rough one. But there just isn't a lot of pop there. I don't think we will see a ton of pop from him. He's not the biggest guy either, only 6', 180. Maybe he grows into 6'1", 6'2", and 200 pounds. That changes my mind a little bit. But as of right now, I'm giving it a C. Next up, number 10. Guess what? Another high school shortstop, Billy Carson, from the same school that Seth Hernandez went to, Corona High School in Southern California.
Yeah, this is one I feel a little better about. So I'm going to give the White Sox an A. Not everybody loves Billy Carlson's bat, but I love the potential here because this is one of the most ridiculous athletes in the class. And he could probably play anywhere from shortstop and center field to pitcher. So that's why I gave it an A. The White Sox didn't do anything really dumb. They took something that they're going to need because everybody needs a good defensive player at a very highly sought after position, whether it is shortstop or center field.
I like this pick. I don't think anybody's expecting Billy Carson to win a Silver Slugger and hit 30 homers. But if he's a guy who wins the Gold Gloves for you and plays just above average offense, I think you're completely okay with that. He's the best defensive shortstop in the draft. Again, not in love with his hit tool, but I think it's better than Hall's. That's a big one. And if he sucks and can't hit and never hits, I think there is an opportunity for him to pitch because his arm is so good and he's such a good athlete. The comp is interesting. I've said interesting so many times in this one, but I said Anthony Volpe with better defense. I know people like to talk about Volpe's defense like being mid and not as good as it is, but if he ends up being a guy with like league average offense and plus defense, I don't know if there really is a shortstop like that right now in the big leagues. Maybe like kind of Dansby Swanson-ish. So Volpe, Dansby Swanson mix. I'd say I'll give it a B+ though. I like the pick for the White Sox. Number 11, we finally get to ours. The fun lefty out of Florida State, Jamie Arnold, goes to the A's.
Yeah, this is going to be an A+. I told you on Sunday, if Jamie Arnold fell, we were partying because this guy is exactly what the A's needed. One of those big 3 college pitchers in the class, really deceptive, different arm slots, just a straight-up strikeout pitcher, something that I miss so much when watching the A's.
Yeah, this is a great value for the pick. I've said this to you, I believe, but if number 2 and number 11 swapped in the class where Brebner goes 11 and Jamie Arnold goes 2, I think that's more believable than what actually happened in the draft. Popular comp for him is Chris Sale. I don't really know if I love that, but I think it is also probably the best way to describe him because he is so unique on the mound. Polished secondaries, a solid fastball as well too. And playing with that deception, it'll probably work. And this is also a guy who seems like one of the higher floor guys as well too, because we've seen him pitch so good in a tough conference for back-to-back years now. He was probably, if this draft were to happen last year with this pool of players, he'd probably be the guy that goes number 1, maybe Ethan Holiday, but he was a pretty sure guy back then as well too. Posts the same ERA this year as he did last year. Good strikeout rate, solid walk rate as well too. I like Jamie Arnold a lot, just not as much as Seth Hernandez. So I go A here instead of A+. On to Texas, where they take California infielder Gavin Fiend.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a B. They've had so many guys graduate from the pipeline, so I get it. You want to go younger. This is, Sebastian Walcott's probably going to graduate pretty soon here once he gets called up, and you need another high school shortstop because everybody needs a shortstop. This guy reminds me so much of A's Max Muncy that I won't give him the A for a guy I don't know that much about, so just a B for now. Got younger.
For Fiend, I don't think he sticks at shortstop. I think he likely ends up being a third baseman, 6'3", 200 pounds as of right now. He doesn't have a specific tool that pops out to me, but I don't think the bat is bad. And he's already pretty big for a high school as well too. Got a lot of muscle on him. The comp, I'd say 2025 Austin Riley was the thing I wrote down, where it's not like the peak Austin Riley where he's hitting 40 homers and playing decent defense and stealing some bags as well too. But I think this is a guy who probably hits 25 homers at his peak, hits around 270, and plays decent defense with a couple stolen bags in there as well too. And I think that if he's that, then the Rangers would be okay with it at number 12. Number 13, another Gavin here, but this one, Gavin Kylan, I don't know. From Tennessee, left-handed bat, shortstop. What do you think here?
I gave the Giants a C+. He shouldn't need a ton of time in the minors, but despite being a utility player, he's going to be blocked by Chapman, Adames, and Fitzgerald until at least 2030. So maybe you teach him to play left field, or you have a guy that is ready to go just sitting there waiting. And I don't like that from a team that's trying to win now. Maybe they have something up their sleeve, like I mentioned, but this doesn't feel like the team that should have picked him.
I don't know if I said it, but it's B for Fiend for me. For Kylan, whatever, it's B+. He's one of my favorite bats in the draft. I know there's not a ton of pop there. And that also makes me kind of believe he is a second baseman instead of a shortstop, which I think maybe gives a bit easier way into the Giants' major league roster. With Fitzgerald having some versatility and maybe even the ability to just move off of them in general. Still kind of undersized, only 5'11", 187. And he doesn't possess that big-time pop like I talked about, but had no problem hitting homers at Tennessee because it's actually pretty easy to hit homers at Tennessee. But regardless, my comp for him, and I actually really like this, Jake Cronenworth. I think he's a pretty solid one for him. But B+. I don't hate the prospect. I like the guys that are more hit tool over power and then develop the power as you get older, because if you don't have the hit tool, the power doesn't mean jack shit. So B+ for me here. Now on to number 14, where the Tampa Bay Rays took Daniel Pierce. And you guessed it, that's a high school shortstop.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give Tampa Bay a B+ for this one. I told you last time, Tampa Bay's enamored by speed this year, and they were comparing him to a faster Dansby Swanson on MLB Network. So there you go. We won't know for a while about this kid, but I'm going to give Tampa the benefit of the doubt here based off of their track record. Usually when they find a high school guy that they like, they figure out what they need to fix about him.
I'll give it a B for the Rays. He's another pretty well-rounded shortstop. I don't think he's the best at any tool from anybody selected so far in this draft as high school shortstops goes, but he's also not the worst at any tool. My comp for him, I like that you said it, Dansby Swanson. I said specifically 2024 Dansby Swanson, a league average or slightly above league average bat with 15 homers, 20 stolen bases, and good defense. Probably like 3 to 4 WAR player at his peak. And I think that makes sense for him. Now on to number 15 with Kyson Witherspoon from Oklahoma, the pitcher.
Yeah, I'm giving Boston an A. They probably didn't expect him to be here. He fits on their timeline pretty perfectly, right? They need to find some pitching before they can rebuild the farm. So maybe another more year of grabbing pitchers like this, overslot it a little bit, and then get right back to high school shortstops and center fielders.
Yeah. I'll give it a B+. Kyson Witherspoon is one of the more guys that I'm kind of confused on as far as him and just like the prospect itself. I haven't learned too much about him. But it seems like one of the more well-rounded arsenals of any pitcher this year. He's got 460-plus grade pitches. My comp for him, delivery-wise, would be Cutter Crawford, which is ironically also a Boston Red Sox, but stuff-wise is Seth Lugo with a bit of a better fastball. Seems like he has, the ability to tap into a lot of different things at different times. Seth Lugo does exactly that. But maybe one thing that Seth Lugo struggles with is fastball velocity, of course, just because he's a bit older. Kyson Witherspoon has that. And then when on the other side, maybe not as good as command as Seth Lugo with all 4 of those pitches, but stuff-wise, I think it plays still. So I like the comp with those two. Those are the top 15 picks, though. Obviously, there's going to be some diamonds in the rough in the draft. If there wasn't, there wouldn't be baseball. So we'll go outside of the top 3 rounds, Skyler, who was your favorite pick from, I guess, day 2 of the draft?
Yeah. For a hitter, I really like Boston taking Arizona shortstop Mason White at 114 in the 4th round, because Boston always takes these guys that are projected as second basemen that have a little more power than usual. I want to see it work again, right? It seems like they're trying to find Dustin Pedroia, and that may not exist anymore, but this guy is very intense, and it would be a perfect second baseman. I'm just realizing now the pitcher I picked was at the end of the 3rd round. But
Fine.
I might as well mention him. Milwaukee took 6'8" Coastal Carolina pitcher Jacob Morrison, and all those pitching coaches just worked with Jacob Mizorowski, who has a very similar profile. So I think that's going to end up being a guy who at least makes it into the bullpen pretty soon.
Yeah. My favorite pickup's at around 3. Who cares if it's bias? It's the number 110 pick for the A's. It's Gavin Turley. This is a guy I've wanted for some time. This is a guy with a ton of pop. This is a build that the A's have been familiar with in their prospects in the past few years in general, going back to Max Muncy, these kind of like slightly undersized, not 6'3", 6'4" dudes that have a ton of pop and just find a way to get the ball out of the ballpark. That's Max Muncy. That's Colby Thomas. I think we kind of saw it a bit with Tommy White as well, too. Gavin Turley fits that build. He's only 6'1", but nearly 200 pounds. I believe he has like the Oregon State home run record, if I'm not mistaken, or he's close to it if he's not. And he's been a big-time player for them for the past 3 years. So Gavin Turley, outfielder, I think has a chance to be a real threat with the bat. Pitcher, I didn't really come up with one, but if I had to pick, I want to say he was taken in around, let me find it real quick. Let's see. Nope, not that round. Number 9. Another Coastal Carolina guy that I liked, Riley Eichhoff. We saw him pitch in the College World Series. He falls as pick 256 with the White Sox. Maybe that's because he's a grad student and born in 2001, so he's already 23 years old. But if you get guys that get outs, that's all that really matters. And I think Riley Eichhoff embodies that. White Sox have had some success with turning some guys into solid players, and I think we could see it with Riley Eichhoff as well too, and him getting to the big leagues relatively quick. Outside of those picks, on our spreadsheet we just said other stuff. Is there any other players, or maybe back into the 1st round or first day that you wanted to talk about, or that you didn't like? What's some of the stuff that you saw with this?
Well, let me pull up the tracker real quick. End of the 1st round. Hey, man, Cruz Schoolcraft is. It looks like he's going to stick to pitching. Big 6'8" dude out of Oregon. He's going to the Padres. They love their high school pitching. So another team, kind of like Pittsburgh, right? When they get a big pitcher with some good stuff, right? Stuff is the word now. It sounds crazy saying it, but that's what it is. I know I'm getting off topic here, but I like Cruz Schoolcraft. Jace Level. I did it again. La Violette.
Yeah.
Going to Cleveland, right? This prototype hasn't really worked for him yet, but they're still trying. The massive center field power hitter. Just interesting. Also, Ike Irish to Baltimore. They took a couple more catchers after, so he probably won't play catcher, but, a bat that's ready to go for Baltimore, team who sucks this year.
Yeah. First, I'll hit on what you said about Baltimore. Ike Irish, Wahiwa Aloy, and Caden Bodine all get taken, all pretty big names when it comes to college this year. They take them all within the first 31 picks. They had 4 picks actually within the top 37. Has to be some sort of record or whatever. But I like their first 3 picks with Irish, Bodine, and Aloy. Irish, I think, is one of the best hit tools in the draft, and getting him at 19. I was okay if the A's wanted to take him at 11. Once it came to Arnold being there, I was like, okay, we should probably take Arnold. But if Irish was the pick, I don't think I would have been upset. Andrew Fisher goes number 20 to the Milwaukee Brewers. Last year, they took somebody in the first couple rounds from Tennessee as well, too. Blake Burke, Andrew Fisher, not exactly that, but has big-time power as well, too. Was hurt for some of this year, I believe, at Tennessee, but always the guy that when I was watching their highlights, was a fun guy to watch. Jason Laviolette, like you mentioned, some of the biggest power in college baseball, only hit like 250 this past year, but walked a ton as well too. Usually don't see. I want to say is like I saw something a couple months ago about like hitters that hit under 260 being selected in the first year or first round of the draft is extremely rare. But I like Laviolette to be a guy that actually makes that work. Kind of reminds me a bit of Chase DeLauder, who they already have in their system with the Guardians. Gage Wood goes 26 to the Phillies, is a bit of a cool one. Obviously, through the no-hitter in the College World Series. Zachary Root goes number 40 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We talked about him a little bit yesterday. But an interesting delivery, some fun stuff. Didn't have the greatest College World Series, but I obviously worked out for him because he is a first-round draft pick to perhaps the best possible situation that you can go in as far as pitching goes. And let me just go through Ethan Petrie, 49 to the Nationals. I like as well too. Big outfielder with big time pop there.
When I'm watching Devin Carter, A's second pick of the draft, I
Devin
can't
Taylor.
get,
Taylor. Yeah.
Dude, I got the summer league on to my left. My bad.
You're good. No, I just wanted to make sure that we got the right person.
Yes, Indiana outfielder. I can't get Curtis Granderson out of my mind when I'm watching a swing. Maybe not the whole profile, but at least a swing.
He's also very the guy we took in the first round. I already talked about Gavin Turley like as well too. Big time pop, but from the left side, which is kind of cool. There's other stuff, maybe not as polished as a fielder, runner, all that stuff. But if you hit bombs and you can hit, like they'll find a spot for you regardless.
Yeah.
From there, though, there's summer league notables that Skyler wants to talk about, so we got time for that.
You know, most of the summer league does not matter at all. That's why most of the top names, like, you know, the ESPN guys, stopped going to Vegas for this because it just doesn't matter that much. But there are a couple things I want to talk about that may not be coincidences. There's just a couple of young guys who have been going absolutely bananas. And how about I start with a game I'm watching right now? I just looked over. And Tyler Kolek, the former Marquette point guard, is on the Knicks now, was on a two-way contract. He's got 23 points in the second quarter. He's hit 5 3-pointers. So maybe he's earned a backup point guard spot this year. Interesting.
There you go.
How about the number one pick, Cooper Flagg? He had 31 in his summer league debut. That is a whole lot of points. I don't care who you are. I'm excited for him because the main thing about Cooper Flagg, why he goes number one, why he goes to Dallas, and why it's so important is the defense. So if this guy is going to be a shot creator already in his first year, that's pretty crazy. A couple other guys just looking to find bigger roles on their team. I feel like the Atlanta Hawks have been looking for a 6-man shooting guard since Kyle Korver left. Kobe Buffkin, guy they drafted a couple years ago, has crazily increased his 3-point percentage. He had 25 points in an overtime game yesterday, 27% from three last year, looking like closer to 40% now. So I don't know, with how crazy the Eastern Conference is, I'm keeping a closer eye on some of those potential breakouts, like Chicago Bulls, Matas Buzelis, a guy I loved coming out of the G League, 28 points and 5 rebounds the other night. He's looking to earn a starting spot. He shot 13 free throws yesterday, so knows how to get to the line. That'll get you into the starting lineup. One I wanted to shout out because the beginning of his summer league was pretty bad. That's Con Knipple. 4th pick to the Charlotte Hornets. He started off, I want to say 1 for 8 in his first game, maybe 0 for 16 from 3, but he comes back with 16 points, 5 threes, 10 rebounds, 4 assists in his first game in Vegas. So looks like he figured it out. He just doesn't want to play in Golden State. Just got to go over to Vegas, figure it out. Or maybe he was in Utah. Either one of the exhibition ones. It's not the real summer league. Speaking of Utah, Kyle Filipowski, maybe one of the only big men that has played some real minutes that's actually playing on this summer league team for Utah. He had 35 points the other night and game winner in overtime. So awesome for him. 11 boards. He's going to be, if not a starter, a 6th man for that Utah team. And one more draft pick that I really liked to the Sacramento Kings, Neat Clifford. Little older, Colorado State, reminds me a little of Josh Hart. 19 points, 7 for 8. From the field. And there's that Josh Hart stuff I was talking about. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block in 20 minutes in a summer league win. Those are the notables for the summer league. Not all crazy. I just sometimes really like predicting who's going to be the sixth man for a team.
Well, I was Johnny Furphy, whatever.
Yeah.
He had a crazy poster. There's some rough images that came out of the dude that got poster.
Yeah, Noah Senge. Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough for that guy. But cool poster. Anyways, moving on to our Layups bowl predictions before we get on out of here in episode 253. Last week, our Layups didn't hit. It was Chicago Cubs over Minnesota on Wednesday. That didn't happen. It's got Ethan Holiday going number one. Obviously, that didn't happen. We talked about that.
Direction.
Yeah, right direction. High school shortstop. Shockingly, this week I decided to go blank. This week, I think it's a bit interesting to pick something for as far as Friday when we're at Tuesday. So I decided to hold off for now. Things can change. So I'm going blank slate this week as we start the second half.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I just picked a couple of games that already have at least one pitcher decided that I really like the matchup for. The first one's going to be Philly to get the win over the Angels on Friday. We know that Luzardo's pitching. That seems like a pretty good matchup, lefty against the Angels lineup. And we don't know who's pitching for the Angels, but I don't care.
Yeah, that's fair. Bold prediction this past week actually did really good. We went 2 for 2. I had Arizona over San Diego on Wednesday. They won 8-2 in that one. Skyler had Seattle winning at Detroit on Friday. They swept them. So obviously they won that one as well too. So we go double greens there. This week, bold prediction, I'm also just doing the same thing, holding off. Wait until we get some more information. We'll be back. I will be back next week for that specific one.
One thing that's rubbed me the wrong way the past week has been how terrible Tampa has looked. And I think some changes are coming maybe sooner rather than later. So I'm going to take Baltimore, a team that's also been struggling, but they're going to beat them at Steinbrenner Field. Charlie Morton has had a really good month. So even though he's got like a 6 ERA, he's got like 4 wins in his last 6 starts. So he should be able to at least keep up with Taj Bradley. Let's say Baltimore wins a wild one, 9-8 or something like that.
All right. That's going to do it, though, for episode 253. Next week, 254. MLB second half returns. Maybe we'll see a second-round pick in the NFL finally signed. Not a problem for the Raiders, though. They already got our guy locked down. But
we made it to the training camp with no issues. Both of our teams for the first time in years.
I feel that with the Raiders. That's exactly how I'm feeling. But yeah, we're starting to get in the swing of things for football, which is nice. The NBA Summer League is going on, which means we are deep in the offseason for that. Maybe some trades go on as well, too. That's always fun. We're starting to get to hot stoves, or not hot stove season, Jesus. But trade deadline season is always fun. So we'll come back to you guys next week with some fun stuff.
SEC Media Day was today. Diego Pavia said he didn't come back for the money. He came back because he's going to win a national championship at Vanderbilt. So that just gets me hyped up for college football because there's no way that's happening.
He's delusional, but NIL's making these kids crazy, man. Anyways, we'll see you next week.
See you, Kyle.